Hello, everyone, and welcome to Star Trek Wars, your official bootleg Strange New Worlds podcast. My name is Jeremy. Joining me tonight, in person, it's Jordan. Hello, Jordan.
Yeah, Jeremy, and just like Kirk and Spock, we're meeting for the first time in person tonight.
Get on in with that close-up handshake. And to my left, we're also meeting for the first time tonight. It's my co-host and co-life partner, Chelsea.
Hello.
It's like the three old school people as the camera zooms away from this table of podcasters.
I don't think I'm old school.
Speaking of old school, thanks, Chelsea. The episode we're reviewing tonight will be rated on a scale from 1 to 10 by us, the co-hosts, and you guys in the Star Trek Wars Council that left a rating on our Facebook page. If you wish to join the council and have your vote counted for next week's episode, head over to that page. You can find us by searching for Star Trek Wars. The council should pop right up at the top. There you can rate episodes yourself and can also leave a comment that'll be potentially read on air. It's a great community. We're all on there, very active, and love talking Trek with you. Now, I would love to get started on this week's episode, but first...
What did I do wrong?
Oh, the corrections are coming up, Jordan. The corrections are coming up. But first, yes, Chelsea and I are down here in Texas, and for the first time in 9 years, Jordan and I are in the same room recording an episode. It's super awesome. But also, this episode might be quick because we want to go out for churros after, so we might speed through a little bit because according to Charles Barkley, San Antonio has some delicious churros. I think that's all he has to say about the city of San Antonio.
Yeah, he didn't insult the women or anything.
Corrections.
Or everything.
Did he get the Riverwalk?
He likes the Hotel Emma. He likes that. So churros and the Hotel Emma. That's it.
That's why we're here. All right, corrections department. It looks like the correction gods are in our favor this week. As it turns out, we were both mostly correct about Amok Time. Jordan, you were correct that Spock and T'Pring were not yet officially married, but I wasn't. I was correct in him calling her his wife right before going to a commercial break. Specifically, upon the arrival of Enterprise at Vulcan, Vulcan Space Central establishes contact. A beautiful Vulcan woman appears on a view screen, and she exchanges formal greetings with Spock. When asked by Lieutenant Uhura who she is, Spock states that she is T'Pring, my wife. But then, after that, he explains, well, not technically.
Almost.
But
it's just a formality at this point.
That was
Spock's inside voice.
unintentional. I was just clearing my sound speaker.
They're just common law married.
And then it went to break, yeah. And then CSI started. So thank you for sending in that anonymously, whoever you were. And if you find a correction from today's episode, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know by writing us on Facebook, or you can email us at StarTrekWarsPod@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave a voice message instead, you can call us at speakpipe.com/StarTrekWars, and we may play your message on next week's episode. Now, what is it? Haggith is also here, everybody. You have to get to the mic, Haggith. What is it?
So let's get down to the business.
Yes. Always great. That's why we brought him along. Let's get down to the business and talk about this week's episode. Doing it live. Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 6, Lost in Translation. Written by Onitra Johnson and David Reed. No relation. Directed by Dan Liu. Uhura seems to be the only one who can hear a strange sound that seems to trigger terrifying hallucinations. All right, let's get our initial reactions and our hit it or quit it segment. If we like the episode, we will, of course,
Hit it.
But if we don't like the episode,
I quit. To hell with you.
Chelsea, you want to lead us off by telling us, would you hit it or quit it this week?
I would hit it like all of those gross exploding bugs hit our windshield on the way down here.
Yeah, one of them fat ones was just filled with it was like being hit with a yellow paintball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. It was like literally moments after Jeremy spent so much time like scrubbing and squeegeeing the windshield.
So much
and we
time.
pull out on the highway. It's like
Just right off the
The
operator.
car doesn't have windshield wipers? Or?
no.
Not to handle that kind of
Yeah,
We have a
that's true.
Flintstone car.
that kind of mess. Okay, Chelsea, you would hit it. What about you, Jordan?
Well, did y'all hear that noise?
What is it?
I don't know what it is. Oh, man. All right. Well, I would hit it, but then I would, I guess, be lukewarm about it afterwards, kind of like Chapel with Spock. I liked it. It was good, but good, not great. So,
Okay.
but definitely a lot I enjoyed about it.
I would definitely hit this. I think it is good and great. I'd hit it like Uhura hit Kirk. And by that, I mean I'm probably hallucinating and terrified by how much I like this episode. Let's jump into our pros. Chelsea, you got pros for this week?
I do. First off, Hemmer's like zombie ghost. I feel like that was really well done. I like Spooky Trek. Also, I really loved Pelia. Kind of
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
end of sentence. No, I liked when she was talking about Hemmer and was like, "Oh, he's the best student I had," and then she's like, "I only said that because he's dead." Felt like the right thing to do.
He's pretty mediocre.
I really like the brother rivalry between Sam and Kirk. I feel like that's probably pretty relatable. I don't know. I don't have a brother, but it seems like a thing that happens with humans.
My brother's like that all the time.
Yeah, he's impossible to please. For the first time since they introduced the CW guy as Kirk, he was actually a pro for me. So I feel like we're finally starting to get like that charm and kind of like Kirk charisma. Yes, thank you. I don't know. I really liked him. He was funny. Like the jokes landed for me, like Uhura's punch did. Yeah, it was good. So I think if we can keep that up, I might be on board with him being
That's awesome.
Captain Kirk. The speech that Uhura gave Ramon when she was like, "I'm real," and like talked about all of her memories, that gave me chills, like actual chills. And I don't think it was because of the AC. I also really enjoyed Pelia calling out Una because that was a weird dynamic, like at
Yeah.
the beginning. Like, I don't know. We'll talk about that later. And I love that the first time Kirk and Spock meet is because once again, Spock was cleaning up after Sam.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't pick that up.
And just says like, he's so frustrating. I think that's pretty perfect. And then my other pro, which is kind of like soapboxy, so I'll make it short. I felt like this was a really good representation of like being a woman who has any type of medical ailment that you cannot physically see. Like you're seeking help, you're going to doctors, you're going to specialists. Nobody takes you seriously. They think it's made up or you're overreacting and blah, blah, blah. And then the second a man has the same issues, suddenly it's, oh shit, red alert, this is real. So I don't think that that was obviously what they were going for, but that really, I don't know. That's unfortunately just how it is. And it's nice to see that in like modern television,
Yeah.
even though we shouldn't have to. And is this when I do the neutral zone?
Yeah.
Okay. There was a lot of tension between, I felt like everybody on the crew for most of this episode. Like weird tension. Like Captain Pike got a little like snippy with Uhura.
Yeah.
Like right in like from the get-go. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, she couldn't get the sound to play fast enough.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
like, okay, Pike, settle
Like
down.
everybody just seemed really,
Everyone needed a nap.
It's like a half second, too.
yeah, but it was everybody. Like it, I don't know. That was weird to me. because I feel like this crew has pretty good chemistry. So that was a little like jarring.
Yeah.
It's like the beginning of the sound of her voice on Deep Space Nine, when everybody was just like over it and the war had taken its toll. And Sisko was like, I like Bashir more when he didn't talk.
Yeah,
What? Yeah, and Cassidy called him. I was like, that was mean. And Sisko was just like, I'm just joking. And she's like, no, you're not. Like, they were just frazzled. But, I mean, I guess they're frazzled about this project being delayed. I guess that's the same as 2 years of the Dominion War.
Right. Well, they would
It'll
all
really
be,
take its toll.
they would be horrible project managers. Like one little inconvenience and they're just like turning on each other. The only one that surprisingly wasn't kind of short and rude was La'an. And like she would be my go-to if I'm banking on somebody being kind of short or rude.
Yeah.
So.
And I really like that about Kirk this week, about how he was totally on board with just helping her.
Yeah.
Not thinking she was crazy. Like, let's get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's my pros and neutral zones. R.I.P. Ramon.
R.I.P. Razor Ramon.
That's it. Jordan?
Yeah, I like the nebula shot in this episode and just like seeing the inside of a nebula, because normally you see it like off in the distance, but they're actually like in the gases. They're using the Broussard collectors, which you also don't see very often, part of the ship, very underappreciated. So, I mean, unfortunately, they were using them to kill interdimensional beings, but hey, hazards of the job. Pike gets a promotion, and I noticed his new badge. I was like, that's new.
Yeah.
And then they bring it up. I was like, oh, okay, fleet commander. There was a fleet of him, one other tiny ship, and a gas station. But hey, fleet commander. Way to go, Pike. I also will be subscribing and smashing the like button for Hemmer's YouTube channel. I thought that was pretty great. All his instructional videos for all the engineers out there. That was pretty cool. It's kind of weird that Uhura has to go to like a recorded video from Hemmer to learn how to do that. Like you'd think there'd be manuals or videos more professionally done, but I think she just kind of missed Hemmer in that capacity too.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird because she talked about how she didn't want to see or think about her family because they had died, but then she's watching videos of Hemmer, so it was a little weird, but I kind of get it. The Kirk brothers, they've already gotten more screen time in this episode in Strange New Worlds than all of TOS times like 50. So, I mean, it's basically like Kirk rolls over Sam. It's Kirk with a mustache. That's it. It's like, and then Kirk's unaffected by it. He's
Unaffected.
Just like, yeah, my brother's dead. We got to get to the bottom of this. Like, what the heck? That was a weird vibe. And then La'an gets to meet the real McCoy. I mean, the real Kirk. It was... I wasn't sure when it was going to happen. I was pretty sure it would, but it had like that awkward tension that you'd expect from La'an's side. But then Kirk surprisingly remembers who she is, what her name is, why she called him, and that she owes him a drink. So Sam also gets to be useful and kind of impress his brother because Kirk kind of more on the fast track like his father, and Sam's just kind of like the scientist of the family. So he's kind of like the black sheep to an extent. And they go into that a little bit. I'm sure we'll get a little bit more of that. But that was an interesting dynamic for sure. This was a good Uhura episode, and we get some more backstory on her. And for these episodes kind of being one-offs to an extent, there's a lot more continuity than I think I expected with Strange New Worlds, which is, it's kind of good and kind of bad because I do want to just see like an adventure of the week occasionally, but they are calling back to a lot of what happened in season 1. I wish they kind of would have dealt with the Hemmer stuff a little earlier in the season because he died in the finale, and now we're 6 episodes in before they're kind of dealing with the fallout of that. But I thought overall that was pretty good work, and Uhura kind of needed closure on that because she was definitely the closest to Hemmer of the crew. Spock cleaning up Sam's drink was probably my favorite moment in the episode because like he was so intense last week about it, and then he comes over, he's like, what a slob, and just like him and Kirk bond over his brother being, he left an empty drink, like that Spock just cannot handle it. So does he even respect Wood? Neutral zone wise, Kirk has actually had more screen time than Pike this season. And fortunately, it's close. I think he's probably had more screen time. I'd have to go back and actually do it. I'm not going
I think
to.
you might be
but-
right.
He had a whole episode.
That whole
He did.
episode
Yeah.
really pushed him over.
And he had more screen time this week than Pike, and Pike has not had much. So it's close. And this is Strange New Worlds, but it's neutral zone because like I love Pike, but the new Kirk is growing on me. I liked him in the last episode. I like him here, and the character work of like a younger Kirk. And this is the first time that he's actually our Kirk. So I'm okay with that. I'm not done with Kirk yet. I don't think the show is either. I'm kind of surprised that it's going to get awkward if they keep flexing him into the show.
Yeah.
Because how many times can you just happen to run it? Same thing with Pike's girlfriend. Like, how small is space is kind of. I know they're not exactly all the way out there yet. But
And we're too far away. We're too far away from this transition. Like, if this was like, if we were like a year or two from the incident, but like, we still got
it's like
5-6 years.
yeah, the Kazon showing up in season 4. I thought we left you 50,000 light years ago.
still here.
I did feel like the tone, like Chelsea mentioned, was a little weird, but also like there was a tension, but the crew was also very jokey on the bridge at times. Like they're setting up this station and they're preparing for the Gorn War, and there's a lot of like jokes being thrown around at times. And even like the Pelia Una stuff, like Pelia is very nonchalant. I guess that's just how she is, but Uhura at the end, like Pike doesn't exactly defend her at the beginning, and she's like, "Hey, we got to blow this up." He's like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead and fire." Like, it's kind of weird. Like, there's almost no command structure, and I feel like Pike is like he trusts his crew, but it's also almost like too loosey goosey on the bridge at times for like a Gorn invasion is coming up. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic shifts. I'm sure it will, but it's just kind of like you said with Deep Space Nine. It's a whole different dynamic. We're on the bridge, and when they're in a battle or something, it's much more serious. They crack jokes, but it's usually when they're in Quark's bar or the holodeck or something like that. So, someone pointed out to me that Una's eyebrows are like Vulcan-y now. Like they're kind of like they're like straight and almost pointy. Versus in Discovery, they were like normal eyebrows. I don't know why they did that, but now I can't unsee it. So
Yeah, they are very straight.
yeah, they're kind of like straight
Something
and
to
almost
keep an eye out.
Yeah.
yeah.
I noticed that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just thought it was just like, I don't know.
I don't know if that was
Changing
a
shit up.
choice or what, because I saw the pictures side by side in Discovery. They're just like normal arch eyebrows. So, I mean, this neutral zone because I noticed it, and now you get to notice it too.
The thing about Deep Space Nine too, Jordan, is like, yeah, they would, like Jadzia would crack jokes, but that even got to a point where Cisco would be like,
Shut it
no one's
down.
laughing.
Yeah.
Like, this ain't the time.
Yeah. And
You're
listen,
embarrassing yourself, Dax.
and I love to crack jokes, but like there's a time to buckle down and be serious, especially. But we'll see where that goes. La'an never got a drink with Kirk. Like I was looking forward to the whole episode. Like when's this gonna happen? And she even like acknowledges it, and so does Kirk, and she just kind of nods and walks away.
That's the finale, Jordan.
I
We're gonna
gotta
have
wait.
the Gorn.
I
We're gonna
know.
have La'an and Kirk come together with the Gorn.
They're
and
going to
having a
beat the
drink.
Gorn, and then they're going to have a drink and have corn chips
That,
and salsa.
well, you can go get
Corn
that right
chips.
now.
Corn
chips and
chips.
salsa.
Yes.
That's what Texas is known for.
Gorn chips and salsa.
I'm going to need you to order exactly like that.
Oh my god. I've lost my train of thought.
I got little Gorn bites all over my legs ever since we've been in Texas.
Yeah, I can just hear him screaming in the trees
I think
nonstop.
I'm like I got like eggs in these legs.
Eggs in the legs.
Got the old egg leg.
Yeah, that Dr. Seuss book about Hammer. Eggs in his legs.
Jeremy, why are you climbing to the top of the roof? No, don't jump, Jeremy. We'll cut him out.
Can Gorn get wet?
Excuse me.
I don't like. Hold on.
I don't know if we've seen a female.
Like. Okay, in retrospect, that was poorly stated. All right.
We'll call Ben Shapiro in on this one.
Like gremlins? Jesus Christ.
Not when I'm here.
I want to go home. Can they?
Gremlins.
Yes, like
Oh, like water? Is
Yeah.
that their weakness?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You bunch of pervs.
Yeah. Like their little egg sacs are full of water stuff.
All right, next.
You know,
That's how Kirk defeats him in the episode with a water gun. Don't you remember?
Super soaker.
Okay, where was I? Yeah, they never had that drink. And I'm not someone who needs to see the first meeting of every character ever in a prequel. And like Kirk meeting Uhura was good this week. I liked their interactions. But then he also meets Spock this week, and the Uhura stuff was really good. La'an stuff made sense. But like I'm fine with the first time we see Kirk and Spock being him playing 3D chess with Spock on the Enterprise.
yeah, and then you see him here watching Spock play chess, so that even kind of
It
alludes
kinda
to that
ties
too.
in.
Yeah,
It's not bad. I almost wish that they would have had, and maybe they'll do this later, is have them have some screen time together where they kind of butt heads a little bit because they are completely different styles and they don't know each other yet. So kind of see that growth of them getting to that point. But it was fine. But that's pretty much everything I have as far as pros and neutral zone. What about you, Jeremy?
yes, I definitely have a few pros. I really like this week's episode. I love that they brought Bruce Horrick back as Hemmer. We knew they mentioned that he would come back in some capacity this year. I was hoping to be as like a brand new character or his twin brother or something, but it was cool seeing him here. We get to see hallucination Hemmer. We get to see YouTube Hemmer. We get to see zombie Hemmer. So we got a lot of cool variations, and I loved all of them on that. Why did I write buzzard? Well, I guess I'll come back to that.
I once hit a buzzard with my windshield and it caved in. It was scary.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Like a
I hit a
Like a
raccoon
vulture?
and it cracked my radiator. So like 3 days later, I'm driving my mom's car and there's a buzzard on the side of the road eating a deer and it flies up straight into my windshield. It caves in and like spider webs, a little glass comes in, feathers come in. It stinks. So I wrecked 2 cars in like 2 or 3 days. My dad's like, you're not driving my car. So
The only way that would have been better is if the buzzard was eating the raccoon that you had previously
Yeah,
hit
that's-
and then wrecked your car.
Really,
again.
the circle of life.
Yeah.
it is.
Cue the Elton John.
Yeah, so guys, I'm terrible at this. Remember a few weeks back when I said Paul Wesley just doesn't trick my brain into seeing Kirk? Well, my brain is stupid because for whatever reason, I totally bought him this week. And I don't know what it is, but I loved him in this. Maybe it's just because this is the actual Kirk. So if any time I need Paul Wesley to be like Kirk in my head, this was the week because this is the actual prime time, non-alternate universe Kirk. And I completely bought him. I love how he helped Uhura through this episode, and he was smart, he was thoughtful. I love the continuation with him and La'an and the complexities there, and the sibling dynamic between him and his very much alive brother Sam, discussing their very much alive father George.
Not the Kelvin timeline.
Right. So the movies, that's where the movies differ. Chelsea, George, their father, is very much alive in the original series. But if you remember, the Abrams movies begin with
Right, with Thor.
with Thor dying
Yeah.
because of the guy from the Romulan from the future killing him. And that's what creates that divergent timeline is by Thor dying in the opening of the movie.
So their dad's alive?
In the prime timeline.
What about
Yep.
their mom?
What about their mom?
I think so, yeah. She's not in Starfleet, so she's not important.
Yeah, she may or may not know that Winona Ryder is Spock's mom. She's a girl from House.
Excuse me?
That's neither here nor there. Also, I thought Celia Rose Gooding is so wonderful as Uhura, and I thought she did a great job leading this episode. Like you mentioned, Chelsea, that the scene where she breaks down talking about her family stuff, like, great. Yeah, more hammer stuff. I love putting the hammer down. I love, I can't say her name, but Pelia?
Pelia?
Pelia? Love her. I thought she was great. Admitting Hammer was only okay as engineer. I thought that was a wonderful, funny moment. And Spock, Uhura, and James just chilling in the mess hall of the Enterprise. I'm still excited for the stories that this crew have to tell, which I'm hoping is many more seasons left. But it did give me a huge smile seeing them sit at a table together. And I agree, like Jordan, there's a way to do that where I roll my eyes and be like, oh. and they almost did it. Like when Spock and Kirk do the handshake and you close in on the handshake, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers and Predator.
Locking arms.
Yeah. What's the matter, Spock? Government got you pushing too many pencils? All right, you son of a bitch. Yeah. But it's a little too close on that tight end of the, like, hey, look what's happening. This is it. But I still like it. What do you guys think about Chapel and Spock this week? We didn't get much, but were you all right with what we got?
It almost feels like we missed an episode, like of the tension and what happened between them, because they were obviously super into each other. But now I think things got too real too fast for Chapel, and she's kind of, trying to take it slow because Spock, he goes pretty quick. He's like, yeah, we need to report our relationship. She's like, whoa, buddy.
It's a very Worf thing to do.
Yeah, yes, indeed. So I don't know. It was a weird tension between them, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
I have a theory.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's not PG.
Okay.
But maybe he wasn't very good in bed, so she's trying to like put some space there. She's like, you've always been like my weird brother. I'm just trying to friend zone him, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, we'll see.
But I get it because, he's still technically engaged, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, why would she want to
They're just on a
report
break.
and dive into a relationship?
Yeah, when it's not even a thing yet.
Yeah.
And then labeling the thing will probably destroy the thing that you just labeled. So I agree with that. And I like the stuff between her and Spock, and I like the stuff between La'an and Kirk because it was just enough, but not to dwindle on and make an episode about. It's a little bit, hey, we're discussing it. It's gonna continue on, but this week spooky Uhura things.
So I feel like La'an is done with Kirk.
You think so?
Yeah, when he was like, you owe me a drink, and she was just like, okay, and just walked off. To me, that was her being like, this isn't the version of him.
Interesting.
This isn't the timeline. I need to let it go and just move on. That's what I got from that.
It could be. I just figured we're just kicking that ball down the road. But I also thought Lara saying, I'll wait for you in the Romulan bar to Picard in episode 1 of season 3. I was like, well, clearly Picard season 3 is going to end in that
That'll
restaurant.
come back.
And it didn't. So you might
it's
be
not
right.
Hannibal. Where they meet in France, right? In Paris?
I don't know.
In Hannibal?
That's the thing
With
you're a
Anthony
nerd about.
Hopkins?
Oh, I was thinking of the show with Mads.
Oh, no.
The famous show. Not the movie it's based on, of course.
It went 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know how you feel when I start saying,
Lord of the Rings stuff.
yeah.
Also, it's based on a book, but we'll address that in next week's Jordan Corrections.
Yeah.
Jordan corrections.
Everything's based on a book.
I think that's it. Do I have any neutral zones? I'm a little bit torn on Pike, Uhura, and Carl. Oh, that must be the Pike, Uhura, call. Yeah. I'm a little torn on this. You guys kind of alluded to this too about Uhura saying we need to destroy that thing, and Pike just being like, destroy it. Because on one hand, I actually really like that about Pike, is that he trusts his officers so much that someone would be like, they're hurting people. And he's just like, well, destroy it. Mm-hmm. But also, man, there was a lot of buildup on this needs to be done. This is so important. And we might get some of that fallout, I'm guessing, because you look at the episode titles, I think we got a pretty big finale that is probably going to tie into some of this stuff. But also, Pike is fleet captain here. If I'm not mistaken, he ends up being the fleet captain before going to teach at the academy. This would seem like I don't know. I can't imagine the brass would be happy about this decision, even if it's tough. This isn't Section 31 stuff.
Yeah, I don't know that you can even prove that you're right in that situation is the problem.
Yeah, the one guy that was affected's dead. Uhura's fixed. Unless, they can find a way to talk to these guys without seeing dead loved ones. I imagine he'd get at least a slap on the wrist, like that, career wise.
Why would they need to talk to him? I mean, isn't that Starfleet?
Yes.
Like, everybody's different. Everything's different.
Yes. That's why I'm a little bit torn. Like, I agree. From Starfleet, like, they made so much of a stink about this is a huge thing that has to get done because the Gorn, we need this energy. And then to just destroy it with no evidence, I could see down the line where there might be some questions raised. Yeah. But also, like you said, it being Star Trek, maybe there isn't. But there could be if they wanted to go down that avenue.
He also downplayed it when he said Starfleet can just build another gas station.
That's true.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that's what we have for pros. When we come back from break, we'll get into cons and your feedback. Star Trek Wars is a podcast that has reviewed every single episode of Star Trek's classic era. We covered the original series through Enterprise in the first 7 seasons on this feed. Season 8 is dedicated to the Trek films, and Season 9 is where you're at now, where we cover modern Trek. You can find every one of those right here on the Star Trek Wars feed, plus bonus content with over 350 episodes of Trek content. It's never been a better time to hit it. On top of that, we also have a Patreon channel that covers a wide variety of content, both Trek related and otherwise. For just a few bucks a month, you'll get access to all that content as well. Check us out over at patreon.com/Star Trek Wars. Might be seeing some new stuff on that feed relatively soon. Chels?
Yep.
Oh, you got that straight. Now let's get into our... Chelsea, you want to lead us off with your cons for this episode?
Sure. So the dynamic between Una and Pelia, before we realized that Una's just like butthurt because she got a C. Mm-hmm. I hated that. Like, I get that Pelia's a little dismissive and insubordinate, but she's also
a dirty space hippie.
Yes, thank you, Jordan. She's airing concerns, maybe not in the way that Una thinks she should, but she's, the chief engineer?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would ever speak to Scotty, O'Brien, or Geordi like that had they have aired the same concerns, even in a similar way. So I just thought that was really petty and really catty and frankly very childish.
It was a weird dynamic between the two of them.
I think Pelia has a weird dynamic with everyone she's been on screen with so far.
Yeah, but she wasn't combative. And Una was just... she was just a bitch. For no reason. Unprovoked. Because she got a C.
No, it's because she's not Hemmer.
Yeah.
Oh, right. No, she can change that too. That's fair. I don't know. I hated that. I thought that was really screwed up.
Una's in my cons for that reason too, just because... It definitely seemed to allude to the fact that Una was being horrible to her, not just because of the C, but because she was Hemmer's replacement, and that is crazy.
Someone who's been discriminated against most of her life. That's a strong decision.
Yes.
Yeah, neither one of those are valid.
Especially coming from the first officer of the flagship. It's not her fault. And I do see, I think she is, Pelia is... I wouldn't say insubordinate, but she does just go off and do her own things, and she's aloof. And I thought there was things that you can get onto her about because she wasn't doing the right protocol. She needs to be obeying the first officer of the ship, but I don't know. There's something off about that dynamic.
Yeah, but by not obeying Una, she saved lives.
Yes,
but we never revisited that.
Yeah.
Ick.
Yeah.
Also, Uhura freaking out and telling Pike that he needs to shut down the refinery. Is that what it is? A refinery?
Basically, yeah.
And then instead of just continuing to communicate that it needs to be destroyed through the comm badge, it's just like slow-mo running through the court. Like if it's that important, you had him. You had an open line of communication. Like how many more little particle boys just died because we needed an action scene?
To make it more dramatic.
I don't know. And then another con is it feels like by blowing that up, does that
Killed
not
a lot
harm
of particle
them?
boys.
Yeah.
A lot of people boys died.
Yeah. You just took out generations. Like generations of particle boys.
I wish we would take out generations. Start at first contact.
It seemed weird. It seemed weird.
Yeah, maybe if she went over the speaker and did it immediately, she would have got to see her family at the end instead of the consolation prize of Hemmer. Like, you did good, but not you get to see your family again good.
Also, why no speaking lines for Hemmer? I know he's a ghost, but like ghosts talk all the time.
The YouTube video got some talks.
They just
but-
didn't want to pay him.
yeah, it's a hallucination. Maybe they don't have his voice down, right?
Yeah.
Break the illusion.
What?
For the Hemmer hallucination, like maybe they don't. The aliens are doing like a Hemmer impersonation. They don't got the voice down right, but they look like him.
Oof. Okay.
Tracks.
You know what? Whatever. I'll allow it. Jordan, what about you?
No, I mean, did you hear them try to talk to Uhura? It did not sound pleasant.
It's true.
Well, con-wise, I'm going to kick it off with Pelia. I am still not a fan. I thought her line about Hemmer actually being an average student was pretty funny. She's like, he was a great student. No, I'm lying. He was actually pretty average. Like, that's great. Because that is like so tropey. So like, oh, that was my best student, blah, blah, blah.
I'm lying because he's dead.
Yeah, it is weird that everyone seems to have been in her class. Like, how many teachers are there and how many students are there? Like, that's very weird. They're like 5,000 students per class? My goodness. I guess she was teaching there a long time, but
A long time.
could you guys imagine how much better this season would have been if Hemmer was the chief engineer instead of Pelia? Oh my goodness. Not
Also,
that-
I don't hate her.
yeah, but like her scenes are just forgettable for the most part. There's not much going on. We still don't know much about her, and we haven't really seen her. This is the first week we've actually seen her be like an engineer and actually do her job. Like last week or 2 weeks ago, she was stealing art or something. Like, I don't know.
I really like her, and I still agree with you. Like Hemmer's
I mean-
so great.
Yeah. But I don't hate Pelia.
I hate her because she's not Hemmer.
I have to focus extra hard when she says things.
That's how she talks.
It's hard
She
to
says
understand
things
her.
weird.
You says things weird. Stop.
She does. She's a lot. And speaking of Pelia, thinking that the only reason people don't like her is because she reminds them of Hemmer's death. No, think again. There's other reasons. We'll have to see more of her. Or will we? We'll see. Like, had she been the engineer in the first season and she got egg infected, I don't think that scene would have hit nearly as hard. I mean, I would have probably clapped instead of cried, but like, I'd be a little harsh. But like, she did literally have crumbs all over her uniform. Like, I don't know. Just wait till Spock gets a load of her. He's
Oh,
gonna
jeez.
be really. I want to see a scene of her and Sam Kirk and just both getting nerve pinched. Lastly, I'd say the mishandling of Uhura throughout this episode by the crew is pretty awful. Like, first of all, no one believes her. In the show about Strange New Worlds, and just last week, Pike lost his memories because he was on a planet for 6 hours and locked in a cage. He had to break into a castle to find a memory box. Like, yo, come on, guys.
Weird things happen.
Uhura says she doesn't feel good. She's hearing things. And within 5 seconds, Pike's like, take a nap, girl. Like, you're acting crazy. Secondly, letting her be part of the search team when she's hallucinating, and I don't know, maybe don't give her a weapon. Like, what are you doing? And constantly throughout this episode, Uhura's like, oh, I'm gonna go to sick bay. Like, need help? No, I'll find my way. Okay, go ahead. You go ahead and find something. Like, oh my gosh, she's hallucinating, seeing things. Like, she saw
Yeah.
Spock get sucked through the view screen. Like, she might not find her way to sick bay. I don't know. And Ramon's out there with a phaser.
And a toothpick.
R.I.P. Ramon.
Razor Ramon is out there with his Peaky Blinders hat, like waiting to cut somebody.
With the razor's edge.
In the razor's edge.
Call everybody Chico.
Chico. He's got a toothpick in his mouth. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's something that felt a little off about this episode. Overall, I think it's just kind of a rehash of certain Star Trek plots that we've seen before, but it was well done. It's good Uhura backstory. Some really good character interactions. There may be too many stories and too many interactions going on, but Kirk was really good too. So I really like kind of the genesis of their relationship. I thought that was really good. Seeing, real Kirk for the first time was also very good. But I'm excited about next week. I don't know, is next week?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah. So that'll be very, very interesting for sure. Crossover time. So
I remember why I wrote down Buzzard.
Ooh, tell.
Buzzard
Buzzard
collectors.
yeah. The Buzzard collectors.
Yep.
I'm a bit of a Buzzard collector myself.
Yeah, we've seen the car. Which essentially does the same thing. Like your car's, collecting buzzards.
Yeah.
It doesn't help fuel it.
No, it did not. It's a big mistake.
I also feel like there may be a more humane way to collect the buzzards, Jordan.
I mean, buzzards are just like flying rats, so I don't feel too bad.
The Enterprise comes dangerously close to Voyager level security this week, letting the maniac Razor Ramon cut Mbenga and escape. Ain't no one lay a hand on Mbenga.
That's
Not on my watch.
Yeah, that security team shoots like stormtroopers.
Yeah.
This is like a good opportunity for Mbenga to do some of the MMA he's been training.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to get away from that, guys, because he mentioned it in a lot of episodes.
He's mentioned more that he doesn't want to do it
Yes.
more than he's done. We didn't see him drinking any of that green juice in this episode. He wasn't ready. He doesn't want to be ready. Still not a lot of Pike, and I think at this point we just have to concede that this is not gonna change. This is just gonna be what it's like for the rest of the season. I'm guessing because of Anson's kid that they cut back a lot of time for him.
I bet it'll be backloaded. I think we'll see a lot more of him in probably the last 3 episodes or so.
Okay.
I hope.
I feel like the next episode could probably be pretty Pike-like too, with everything that's going on. But yeah, he's got to play a part. At least
I hope he does next week. He I think is very underrated as far as his like comedic timing.
Yeah.
And he's so funny. His reactions are great. I think he can do comedy really well. So hopefully he gets some screen time next week.
yeah, I love him. I love this cast. But Anson Mount, he's the reason we're all here. He's the reason the show exists.
Exactly.
And if this is the case, and he wanted more time with his kid, like I get it. But the show's still great. But it does hurt in his absence just because of how amazing he is. So maybe give him the year off. We'll get all these strikes taken care of and have him like full on like Pike centric episodes for season 3.
Peak Pike.
Peak Pike.
Yeah, no one's really clamoring for Strange New Worlds when they saw Spock for the first time. But I mean, Ethan Peck has been amazing as well.
Absolutely.
But it was the strength of Pike that got Strange New Worlds to become a show in the first place.
Yeah. And it's in my cons because I generally don't have a lot of cons for this episode. It's not like this episode needed more Pike, but every episode could always use more Pike. And yeah, I love this episode, but I'm trying to remember if this is all going down the way they said it did in TOS. Did Kirk meet Pike? How many times? Does this fall in line with previously established canon?
Canon police, I hate these men, they hate New Trek, they're bitching just to bitch, they're like a deranged, tell you're right.
So I took a look at this in our Canon Police segment this week about the Kirk and Pike and what we knew about Kirk and Pike prior to Strange New Worlds. And yes, in TOS, when asked if he ever met Pike, Kirk responded, and I quote, "I met him when he was made fleet captain."
Well,
Boom.
that's neat.
Yeah. I really like that. And Now, Kirk didn't definitively respond with, I met him once. So that still leaves it open.
The door.
He says, I met him when he was made fleet captain, but that doesn't mean he didn't see him again and again. So that does open that door for future Kirks being around. To Jordan's point, doesn't make sense for someone that's a first officer on the Farragut to be here a lot more in the next few years. Probably not.
I guess technically this is the first time actually that he's been there, so I could see it one or two more times.
Yeah.
But we'll see. They're stretching it a little bit. His brother being on the ship kind of makes sense that maybe he'd visit, but
right. And yeah, we're years away. He hasn't even become first officer yet, which I like that. We are seeing him rise the ranks. They mentioned that he is the youngest first officer, which makes sense because he was, good Lord, he was like 33 when he became captain of the Enterprise, or so he was super young. So he's on track to be the youngest
Pop's
captain.
record.
Yep.
I think we actually probably have seen Pike more in the original series than we have this season, to be honest, between the Cage and the Menagerie Part 1 and 2. I think he had more lines in the Menagerie, too. And I will say...
they're a bit repetitive, but...
yeah, a little repetitive. Easy script read. I will say one thing I didn't mention last week is that what Pike did for Spock last week goes a long way in me believing that Spock would steal, or do what he did in the Menagerie for Pike, because Pike literally cooks dinner for his in-laws and puts up with their crap. So like Spock owes him one.
Absolutely. If anything, this entire series of Strange New Worlds is making that two-parter on TOS make so much more sense and hit that harder.
For sure.
That's what we thought about this week's episode. Let's hear from you guys. Ahura, if you're able to do it.
Picking up communication, sir.
Starting off, we have Chris Rowell. He says, well then, there is a lot to unbox in this episode for me. First, the story of a mysterious alien entity that lives within the nebula and can only communicate through sending messages by way of a hallucination to certain folks. It was kind of clever, as was the incorporation of Hemmer as a symbol for pain, loss, and death. Celia did a great job as Nyota, though, through the episode, and continued to show that the entire length and breadth of this cast has been meticulously and carefully crafted to bring us an ensemble that oozes quality. But for the first time in all of Strange New Worlds for me, there were head-scratching moments, starting with Kirk. This is the first time we've seen the real Kirk. Other iterations on Strange New Worlds have been in alternate timelines, etc. And although it was good to see him, especially the cute little moment with Uhura and Spock at the end of the episode, it felt a little forced and ridiculous to have this random lieutenant from another ship just visiting his brother suddenly become a major focal point in the story with a crew he does not work with or know. Maybe being too picky, but it seemed to me that this story arc would have been better suited to La'an or Spock. And while we're talking about Spock, I guess things are too weird and messy to really discuss the conclusion of the previous episode. Chapel alluded to it a little, but geez, way to keep us hanging. Keeping us hanging with La'an and Kirk too? Nothing really happened there either. Instead, we get some weird side story about Pilia and Una, which didn't feel in keeping with the episode at all. In fact, it kind of felt like a completely pointless time-filling arc because, shit, we gotta give something for Carol and Rebecca to do at some point. This was a waste for me. I say all this to say I still enjoyed the episode, but it was my least favorite episode to date out of both seasons. But it's Strange New Worlds and still great Trek, so it gets a 6 Walking Dead Anar out of 10.
I can see that spinoff.
Oh, the Walking Anar is how I felt coming in from that heat.
All right, my turn. Tony DeSimone says, this episode definitely felt like some classic Trek for me. Semi-spoiler, I felt like this was a good twist on the situation from Disco Season 4, but with the roles reversed.
Oh, yeah.
And Charles Bouchard says, okay, episode, but lots of missed opportunities.
All right, thanks for writing in, guys, on the short period of time we gave you this week. But that's not all we have to hear from this week, because even when we're out of state, he still manages to find us. At the door, of course, is the gatekeeper of forever. For all eternity, he has awaited a question, and every week that question is, "Oh, gatekeeper, what did you think about this week's episode?"
For all eternity, I've been waiting for a good episode of Strange New Worlds. At first, I thought I was hallucinating, but nope. I was actually watching yet another terrible episode of Strange New Worlds. I'd rather be hallucinating. Ensign Ramon is the real winner this week. When I was watching that scene, I couldn't help but think just how lucky he was. I was hoping I'd get sucked into space, too. No wonder gas is so expensive. Captain Pike is going around blowing up all the gas stations. I only had one question the whole time I was watching this episode. Where the hell is Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson? I've got to go. The Cardassians are here to change some of my bulbs. Hey, why the hell did you spoonheads charge me for 5 bulbs? You only installed 4.
Oh, I love that guy. Except all of his thoughts. Thank you, Gatekeeper. Let me say we go ahead and review this episode. Chelsea, what do you give Lost in Translation?
I'm going to give it 8.
Very good. Jordan.
I'll give it a 7.5, Disappearing Quantum Cats. Don't ask me what happened to the 0.5.
I'm going to give this 8, also 8 Sofia Coppola's. Star Trek Wars Council.
What?
she directed Lost in Translation.
Oh. Then he turned around my own joke on me and I didn't get it.
The Gatekeeper would have been dying if he was still
Right.
here. Love that. The Star Trek Wars Council gave it an average score of a 7.57. All this heat on me, I forgot to do it next time on.
I got you covered.
Thank
I've
you,
got
Jordan.
2.
Thank you, Jordan. The first one was my idea, guys.
After extensive medical examinations and vigorous search of the ship's systems, the crew was able to uncover what's really behind Uhura's hallucinations. That's right, we all knew it. Starfleet tried to hide it. It was the recent upgrade of the ship's earpieces to Bluetooth 6.0. And in another bonus next time on, we found out who gave the order to frack the nebula. None other than Admiral Janeway. Her reasons? There's oil in that nebula.
Admiral Janeway's Slant Drilling Coffee Emporium. At it again. Oh, very good. Thank you, Jordan, for saving us. So, how did Strange New Worlds do this week? Well, using the combined average score of ourselves and you guys who voted at home, Lost in Translation translates to an average score of a 7.76. And that'll do it for this week. Star Trek Wars is available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and anywhere else fine podcasts are heard. If you want to support us in a non-financial way, the absolute best thing you can do is take a minute and leave an iTunes Apple Podcast review. That might not seem like much, but it is so important for the rhythms. Like-minded Trekkies like yourself help other like-minded Trekkies like yourself find other Trekkies like yourself. So please write a 5-star review and we will read it on air. You can also find us on Twitter at The Star Trek Wars. If you want a shirt, hoodie, or mug, you can head over to StarTrekWars.redbubble.com or follow the link attached to this episode. Jordan, always a pleasure. Next week, it's at our place, right?
That's right. Yeah. I'll start the commute tomorrow so I can be there on time. You can find me on the Star Trek Wars Facebook page, the Star Trek Wars Council, and at the churro stand.
In about 15 minutes. Just the 3 of us and Charles Barkley.
I hope we get in line first before.
Yeah, I'm also on the Facebook page. And, yeah.
As for me,
Yeah, where
Can we find you, Jeremy?
well, when I'm not talking Trek and eating churros, you can find myself and my son Connor discussing all the James Bond films at the Bonding Together podcast, now available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And that is it for this week. But Star Trek Wars will return next week to discuss the 7th episode of Strange New Worlds titled Those Old Scientists. You thought Jordan in the same room as us was mind-blowing. We're in for a treat. Until then, I wish you good churros.
That's what the cicadas sound like.
In Texas,
24/7. Screams. Haunted screams.
Thanks for listening to Star Trek Wars.